All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Empowering Learning webinar. This webinar is part of our Go Lumio series where we are providing best teaching practices with Lumio. My name is Michelle Grinberg, and I'm a professional development specialist located in Arizona. This webinar, Teaching Vocabulary Through the Science of Reading with Lumio, features Amy and Dawn, instructional technology coordinators from Chippewa Valley in Michigan. We encourage participation. If you've got any questions, please ask those in the chat box during the presentation, and we'll either integrate them into the chat or hold them to be answered during our Q&A period. We'll be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat. And also, for participating today, a certificate will be provided after you complete a brief survey. So with that, let's do some quick introductions here. Like I said, my name is Michelle. I'm a professional development specialist here at Lumio. My contact information is on the screen, and I'm going to pass it over to Amy and Dawn to introduce themselves.
Perfect. I'm Amy Yednock. I'm an instructional technology coordinator, as she said, in Michigan, Southeast Michigan. I have been working for the school district for about 20 years, and our job in the district is to help teachers integrate technology into their classroom.
Hi, I'm Dawn Barrett. I'm also an instructional technology coordinator with Amy in Chippewa Valley Schools. I have been in our district for 27 years as a former middle school teacher, turned math coach, turned instructional technology coordinator, but we are focusing on reading.
Well, thank you so much, Amy and Dawn, for being here. We're so excited and so lucky to be working with you on this. We have so many amazing educators that are joining in our call today, and who better to hear from than folks that are in the field, trying it out and seeing it in real time. So thank you guys again for being here. And I think with that, we can get started. So Michelle did drop in the chat, but if this is your first time with Lumio, you do have the ability to join the lesson live time. So if you're able and if you'd like to, you can join my Lumio session, and you can do that by using the direct link that's in the chat. Or you can go to lumioclass.com on your own, select join as guest, and then put in my code, which is 181461. That's also right in the Zoom chat for you. So we'll give everyone just a second here to get logged in. We do always say that it is nice if you're able to log in first as a student, because you'll get to really experience some of these activities, see how your students will get to interact, and then halfway through our time together, we'll hop into teacher mode and show you how simple it is to build some of the activities that we're really excited to show you today. But let's wait just another minute so that anyone that does want to log in and see what their students get to experience, so you have the chance. Again, that link is right in the chat for you. Or you can simply go to lumioclass.com, select join as guest, and then my class ID is 181461. Everything we show today, anything that you really do in Lumio, it's all about how you set your activities up. You can do things on one-to-one devices. You can do it together on your front of room display, whatever it is that you've got together. So anything we show you, you can really cater to how it is going to be shown. And thanks, Holly and Michelle, for in the chat dropping that join link. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but if you've not joined yet, no worries. You can join at any part, at any time during the lesson. What I'll also do on my screen here is I'll show my class ID. So it's right on the bottom of the screen here, which you can just go to lumioclass.com and type in that code. All right, for anyone joining us here for the first time, if this is your first time with Lumio, what exactly is Lumio? So what I want everyone to do is just kind of sit back and think about a regular teaching day or a week in the classroom. Think about yourself standing in front of your students or helping your student out at their device, and think about all the different things, the different tabs and different websites that they might be flipping around through, right? Think of maybe Google Slides, YouTube, iExcel, Kahoot. Maybe you've got your digital curriculum that you have access to. Boom cards. Am I naming a few things that might be familiar? So all those things are really great, but it's a lot to navigate, both for you as the teacher and for your students as well. So the goal of Lumio is that all these different parts of a lesson, all these different activities that we might do with our students to explore, can live together in one lesson file. So what exactly is Lumio? It's taking the things that you have and bringing them all together and staying in one lesson file. A second ago, I did mention, right? We go to so many different websites like Kahoot, like Google Slides, like iExcel. But there's a reason we go to those. Those all fit into four effective parts of a lesson, being engaging our students, exploring, elaborating, and evaluating, right? And so when we think about Kahoot, for example, it gamifies learning, but it's also served as an evaluation tool. So you think back onto Lumio, this chart here just kind of shows that there is an activity within Lumio that really lets you do all four parts of that effective lesson within one file. So we would love to get to know all of you that are in the call with us. So I have a shout it out activity here so you can tell us about yourself. You do have two separate questions that you should have on your screen if you're logged into my Lumio lesson as a student. First question is, what role do you currently hold in your school? And then what's a challenge that you face in teaching literacy? Everyone a second here to answer that question. I absolutely love doing shout it outs with students because it really gives our students a different entry point to participate in a discussion, right? Whether your student is feeling shy, maybe they're a diverse learner, maybe they're learning English, or maybe they're just trying to look cool in front of their buddies. A shout it out is a really great way to give them a different entry point to participate. Even for students that do want to raise their hands, sometimes it does help to really let them come in this way, process their thinking by jotting their thoughts down, and then they're feeling more comfortable to raise their hand. And usually I say, right, we might have in our classroom up to 30, 40 students in the class. We don't have time to call in everyone. Just like today in our Zoom, we have 118 of you logged into our call right now. So this is a really great way to still have everyone be able to participate. So it looks like we've got a hybrid teacher in here, school success manager, smart PDS in Philly. Hey, Ingrid. First grade classroom teacher. We've got an ELA coordinator, special education ISP, diagnostic kindergarten teacher. I think that's Rachel from Toronto. K-1 SPED teacher, third grade teacher. We've got lots of different folks in here, multilingual learners and a dual language program. Awesome. And then, of course, let's take a look at what are some challenges in teaching literacy. Closing gaps, differentiation of activities. I think that you're going to like some of these choice boards we're going to show you today. Time management. Oh my God, not enough time in the day. I teach it as a second language in French. Oh my goodness. Kindergarten, time. There's not enough of it. Reading levels are significantly below the grade assignment. Yep. I was just reading an article that was came out last week about it. So many different learning levels. Teachers struggle to fit it all in. There is just so many things we've got to do. Amy and Dawn, what are some of those challenges in your district?
I think definitely time we would agree with. And I did see one that said finding time to work with small groups, which is what kind of sparked what we're going to talk to you about today. Because finding that time to be able to work with students and having the other students doing something useful is kind of difficult. So that's kind of where what we did came from. And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, definitely uninterrupted time with those small groups is important.
I think I faced that a lot when I
Ooh,
was teaching.
engagement.
I taught in a blended kindergarten and first grade classroom. I had many students that did not speak English when they came to me, and I had a big group of diverse learners in my room as well. So the only way I really could teach was in those small groups, but there's still so many other things that need to happen in a whole group setting. So prioritizing, trying to make that time for small groups so that I can cater to each individual kind of little group I have within my big pond in my classroom. Someone in the chat saying, one of me, hundreds of them, right? Even if you only have 15 students, they're all 15 individual needs and they all have different needs and different learning levels. And so it's really all about the differentiation. So I'm excited to show you guys today some of the really cool activities that Amy and Dawn in their district kind of put together to work on. All right, so what I've done here is created a little journey of where are you in your science of reading journey. So SOR, science of reading. Is this kind of your first time hearing about the science of reading? Are you learning about it? Are you kind of applying? So my cards down here are infinitely cloned. So go ahead and drag and drop those cards to where you feel you are in your Lumio journey. This page is going to get a little crazy here because we've got 76 of us logged in, but where are you in your science of reading journey? And it is okay if you're brand new and you're unfamiliar. I think you've come to a really great place to learn. Amy and Dawn have so many cool things to share with us today. It looks like we're all over the map here, which is pretty cool. And if this is your first time here with Lumio as well, what I have here is a whole class whiteboard, which is kind of like Jamboard if you're familiar, where we can all collaborate on this page together. And what I really like is I'm able to click on any card here, any contribution made, and then I can hit my drop down and I can see who made that contribution. So if this was maybe a mental check-in with my students, I'd be able to kind of click and see if I needed to go check in with anyone. And then, of course, I'm always thinking about class management. If my students were losing control of the screen, we're all adults and we're doing a pretty great job here. But if you were my students, I imagine some crazy things might happen. I can always come to the top right of my screen and toggle off editing access. And so you'll see now that on your side, you can just look and you can't touch, but just as easily after I've reminded you of our instructions, I can always turn that right back on. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. What is the science of reading, Amy and Dawn?
So as you saw in our map, a lot of us have some in-depth knowledge of science of reading, and some of us are just on our learning journey with the science of reading. But the science of reading is a research-based approach to literacy instruction that really focuses on how the brain learns to read. Um, It emphasizes the importance of explicitly teaching our foundational skills, such as phonemic awareness, which you'll see in some of our activities is understanding sounds in spoken words, and phonics, which is the relationships between letters and sounds, along with vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. So on the left, you see there's like that whole language comprehension and word recognition weaved into the skills of reading. And to put it simply, it's decoding times language comprehension leads to reading comprehension. I got it. Thank you. So our district is in Michigan. We're the 7th largest district in Michigan, and we work with 12 different elementary schools. We are very lucky in our district that each one of our elementary schools has a reading interventionist. And these activities that we're going to show you in a little bit came about with a conversation between our team as an instructional technology coordinators and our reading interventionists. We currently use the program Journeys, but this really can be used with any program that you have. It's not Journeys, doesn't necessarily need to be Journeys specific. It really is more focused on the science of reading. The problem that our district faced was we were looking at integrating the science of reading practices, and teachers really struggle to find time, uninterrupted time to meet with their small groups. So they have these groups that they're expected to meet with. What do these other kids do during that time? So teachers needed more quality resources that were easy for them to be able to support the needs of all of their students. So we, as the technology department, were like, hey, let's talk about integrating Lumio and let's have some amazing activities to integrate them. So the solution, every time I go try to click on this, it clicks on my the solution was that we created some really amazing Lumio activities for students to work on independently. So we catered them to each grade level specifically, and the content matched its weekly curriculum. This was not something that was intended to use every single day in the classroom, but it was something that they could use if they wanted to every day. But it was really important for us, again, that it was independent time so that the teachers had that self-checking capability, which, again, when we get into these activities, you're going to see how we integrated the self-checking. The other thing that was really important, especially for our littles, was audio directions, because the teachers, again, are working in small groups, so the kids needed to be independent. So we provided audio directions for the students to be able to listen to what they were expected to do on every activity. And then we provided not only activities, but choice within those activities. So as you can see on the left there, there's a choice board for the kids to be able to have some options of what they wanted to work on during that time.
Perfect. So a lot of these lessons that we're going to show you today, or the exact lesson, then we'll share out all the other ones with you as an example. There really is going to be a choice board as the start to each file that you'll see, because there is a power of choice, right? When we think about giving our students choice, we're boosting their engagement, we're enhancing their retention, we're encouraging that ownership, supporting differentiation, like many of you said in the chat as well, and real world connections. Sometimes what I'll even do as an extra step to my students to kind of offer that differentiation, especially if they need kind of that independent time, what I'll even do is in my choice board, I'll do something like, we give them their groups. We'll call it the red group, the yellow group. They don't really know what the colors mean, but even within each, I'll then give them their choices. So maybe my yellow group, if they need a little bit more support, they have choices that I specifically cater to their learning needs. And then my blue group, they'll even have their own. So choice boards can be super fluid, but it really allows different ways to really give the students the choice to what their needs are. And what you'll see today is actually they created some really cool activities to make real world connections when they think about learning vocabulary. And I'm so excited to show you those as well.
So here's one of the choice boards that we created. This was actually for second grade. As they got higher in grade levels, we did give them more choices. But the idea was applying the vocabulary and applying the concepts that they were working on that week. So we did do one for every unit and lesson in our journeys. And they had the week's words on the left, and then they could apply them using different activities throughout the week. So one of them is the Frayer model, which many of you are probably familiar with. A lot of these teachers were doing that not digitally originally. So I have students in the district, and they would bring home their Frayer model that they had filled out. So now they had a digital option to do that. But what was really important to us is that they had the choice of every time they're not doing the same activity. So we tried to do a variety of activities. Some of them are actual Lumio activities that we created, like the games that we'll show you in a minute. And then others just took them to a Canva template or something that they were doing that kind of applied to what they like to do. And we'll show you those too.
Exactly. And thinking back on the power of choice and why give them the choice board, if we just give everyone, let's just say a worksheet and everyone's doing the same thing, that might not be everyone's best skill set. They might know their vocabulary words. They might know if you're doing, addition, they might be good at it, but maybe the way you're asking them to show it isn't going to be their best way. And you won't really get that authentic data of where they're at with their understanding. So giving them these different abilities to try it out, maybe having them choose, say, can you choose two of these choices or three, and then you're able to really look at each of their contributions and then gather an authentic ability to see where they're at. And just as an example here's where I could also add a little differentiation. I might put little circles with different colors on each of these choices. My yellow students, I might, select a few of them. My students that are in my blue group. So just giving them a little extra layer here that I could add for that differentiation piece as well.
Well,
And there's a great question, sorry, in the chat of, can you see them work in real time? Louise, stay tuned. We're going to show you a few different ways that yes, you can.
Which is what I was going to say. That's one of the reasons why we chose to do Lumio, is because the teacher can actually see what they're doing once the student clicks on it and begins to work on the activities. So because they were trying to work with small groups and they wanted the students to be working independently, we loved that they could tell whether or not that student was productive during the time when they weren't with the teacher.
Exactly. So this is one of our 12 games in Lumio called a super sort. So this is a first grade example, and this is kind of building up, right? The science of reading is made up of all the different parts, right? Letter recognition, sound recognition. So here we're learning about letter digraphs. So just a quick little tidbit here that I can do as a teacher, I can open it up and I can model that activity if I need to. So I might open this up and I can show my students, oh, if you get that right answer, it's going to go right away. And if you get the wrong answer, it kind of comes back. But a second ago, Dawn and Amy were saying that one really great thing about Lumio is this is meant to be during independent time. So what if my student doesn't know what to do and I'm not there to give those instructions because I'm leading a small group at my back table? So right over here, there's also instructional audio that could be any of us recording ourselves here, reminding our students what they need to do. So when they are working by themselves and we're busy, they can do that on their own.
And when we built these, the audio features were not able to be connected to certain things. So they've actually upgraded their audio features, which is amazing. And we would build them a little differently now.
I will definitely show you some really cool audio things that you can do. Yeah, good call out, Dawn. So if you are logged into my lesson here as a student, go ahead and take a second to interact. And then I'm going to have you pop back over to the Zoom call because I'm going to show you some really cool things that you can do as the teacher because we are all about that data. What are they doing when we're at the back table? All right. So if you are switching between two screens, come on back over to the Zoom call. If you're switching between two screens, come back over to Zoom, and I'm going to show you some really cool things that I can do as the teacher. I'm going to click on View Progress. So first I get this general overview. I can see that 14, 15 students are finished, 35 are in progress, 29 aren't started yet. That's okay. We're just in a Zoom call together. I can do show results, and this gives me just my general class results. I can see the average time's about 53 seconds. Average score is about 4.68 out of 6. I can see my 5 most frequent correct and incorrect answers. Now this part I would of course do by myself on my computer, maybe during my prep time. I can click on student progress. It's always going to warn me, hey, you're about to show student names and scores. You sure you want to continue? And then I can come in here and take a look at how everyone is doing. So I'm going to show you two parts here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to choose, I see one familiar name, Rachel. I'm going to click on yours if that's okay. I can go in here and I can see how Rachel's doing. Now, there is such a power in repetition, especially with our younger students, right? So you'll notice on your screen, if you played with the game, you can reset the game and continue to play. But me as the teacher, I get the data from your first attempt. And I can do some quick analyzing here. Let's just say that maybe Rachel got all these incorrect. I would get that itemized here, but then I can take a look and see how much time she spent compared to the class average and the score. But here's one of our brand new features that we're so excited about, right? Because not only right now, live time am I seeing what you guys are all doing, but I want to take this opportunity to also use this to put in my grade book or bring to an IEP meeting or to review my next teaching steps. Is I have this button right here that says export results, and that'll generate an Excel sheet for me. It'll have all of my students' names, their score, and then the questions itemized. This exists for 3 of our games. If you're a note taker, you're going to want to write this down. Those 3 games are rank order, super sort, and match them up. Those 3 of our 12 games, we'll maybe drop that in the chat, Michelle or Holly, if you could. Those 3 games give you this dashboard and then also the ability to export the results as an Excel sheet, which is really cool, as well as our quiz function that's called response. All right, moving on here. Come on over to my teacher handout here. So this is another first grade example. And Amy and Dawn, if you want to chat about this one here.
Sure. One of the challenges that we faced with the K1 was being able to provide examples for them and make sure that it was still self-checking. So this one, like the last one, has audio directions that explains what to do. And then, of course, as she's pulling them over, all of those shapes are infinitely cloned so that they can move it over and put the beginning sound where they think it belongs. And then when you pull that pink arrow over at the top on every single one we made, it provides a picture of the correct answers. Because again, what is the point of having them work on this independently if they're doing it incorrectly and they have no idea? And because in our district, especially, the teacher doesn't always have time to go back in and check and see what every student did for every activity, if we provided them with that kind of self-check, then they could say, oh, wait, I did this one wrong. And then they would know, and they wouldn't continue to do things incorrectly because they had that to balance it out.
I think I've so often seen self-checking happen mostly in math classrooms, right? The goal of self-check in math is instead of just getting your grade, they need to investigate where they went wrong. It's part of the practice of kind of going back. And I think very often people don't really think to also provide those self-checking opportunities in literacy. It's such a great tool that we can use. And earlier we had someone, yes, you can, Meredith. So earlier someone asked, can I see what my students are doing live time? If you ask that question, here's your answer. So right now on my screen, I'm showing you my teacher handout, but I can drop it down. And now I can see all of the names of everyone that's participating. So I'm going to just click into someone here randomly. I see Holly. I'm going to click on Holly's and I can see how Holly's doing. More so, I can come over into my gallery. I can add a sticker. I can also write a note, maybe saying, try again or give some feedback, maybe give a little extension activity for Holly to kind of keep the learning going. And all this data is saving right in this lesson file. So again, I'm back at my computer getting ready for conferences, or I'm grading, or I'm getting ready for an IEP meeting. I can always come right back in here and I'll always see all of your work right in here.
This was one where Dawn had mentioned, we made these quite a while ago. At the time, adding audio to an object wasn't an option yet. If we were making them again, 100%, we would go in and have probably audio with every single picture that we did. Which is great. It's available now. So I think that would also enhance what we are already doing.
Absolutely. And so when we're done showing you these examples, I'm going to actually build one of these activities just to show you how simple it is. And I will be sure to show you how easy it is to add audio to all this to really make it accessible for our students. All right, just another quick game here. So earlier I showed you a sorting game. This is a matching game, a really great template to use, especially when we're learning vocabulary. All the students need to do here is match the term to its definition. So you've got your vocabulary word, and then you've got your definitions on the right. And you've got two options. You can drag both options in the middle, or you can also just drag the word all the way over to its definition as well. So two different ways to do that. And I'll show you our game templates as well when we get to that creating part. But same concept here. There are some audio instructions to really enforce that individual practice. And then I can drop this down. This is another one of those games where you are able to get that teacher dashboard. So I would still be able to come right in here and get all of your work right on my screen here. So they're not just walking around centers, just doing nothing, right? We're all getting something out of it. They're getting practice out of it. I'm getting data out of it. So it's a win-win.
So one of the things we also did was create a few templates. When we were looking for them, we were looking for something that the students would enjoy. This one's my favorite, where they basically are creating a back and forth on an iPhone using their vocabulary. So we did provide them with an example that they can pop out that kind of went through the words from a different week that kind of gave them an example. But basically, they're just supposed to use the words from that week in some way to create a back and forth. And then, of course, we added emojis because who doesn't love emojis? So those are infinitely cloned. They can add them to their text. The students really seem to love this one. And what we also liked about it is even if they do this a few weeks in a row or once a month even, the conversation is different. So it's not like they're doing the activity and they're going to get bored of doing that very quickly because, I mean, it's just fun for them. They like to do this a lot.
And also, how about the real world connection too, right? They're going to say, why do we have to do this, right? But you do have conversations, right, with real people. And so this is just a really fun way instead of just kind of a plain worksheet where it's, hey, use this word in a sentence. Now we've really made that real world connection. We've met them where they're at. They're all on devices. So this is a really fun activity they can do. And I'm going to pop over to make a visual handout. And so each of you now have your own ability if you'd like to play around. And earlier we were talking about, wait, what about audio? So I added another little hint here at the bottom. So anyone here, when you're on the run, send voice notes instead of typing out, because who has time sometimes to type out these messages? So It can be just a voice note because that's kind of what we're doing, but also I'm really thinking about how can I make this more accessible for my students? Not everyone is ready to type, or maybe typing is just something that maybe still takes a minute. And so what if we also gave them the ability to verbally practice using these words in a sentence? So just a quick little hint here, we can make this accessible and send voice notes. It doesn't have to be typed. So as a student, you can come over on the left side of your screen. You should see a couple of different buttons on your toolbar. And if you just see three dots, click those three dots and then all your options will appear. And what you can do is there's a button that has a heart, a plus, an image, and a circle. We call that button the gallery. If you click on that button, you do have a microphone option, and then you can record some audio. So here's me potentially using one of these words in a sentence. I forgot to look at the vocabulary list before I started. And then I can add that audio here. So there is my voice note, and I can also add one of my little infinitely cloned emojis over there.
Before you move on, Mish,
Yeah.
maybe a question for the ladies here. People are obsessed with your iMessage template. Was that personally created, or did you find that somewhere fun?
So that is something that we created, but it is also something that we have given to Michelle to make available to everybody. So
Yes.
everyone will have access to all of these.
Amazing. Chef's kiss. Everyone was talking about it.
I may or may not have purposely chosen these. So Amy and Dawn did share with us kindergarten through fifth grade lessons. And I may or may not have specifically pulled some of these because they were so cool. So not only are all of you going to be getting the templates here that you can recreate and use on your own, but also if you stay tuned for the teaching part, I'm going to show you how you can also on your own create some of these things as well.
So this one, I like it, same thing, Instagram. We all know that all these kids know exactly what Instagram looks like. They can choose their word from the board bank below and find a picture that represents it, which we all know is a really great way for them to kind of apply that vocabulary and find an image that really represents that word. And then they can also use it in a sentence. So it's very similar to doing those kind of prayer models and things like that, but it's just more of a fun way for them to interact with the vocabulary where they can get creative.
I'm just showing here some different things that we can do. So I typed in my vocabulary word at the top. I made a sentence on at the bottom, and then I went to that gallery button and I brought in an image of someone that is in a good mood.
That's awesome.
Concept here, just kind of continuing on with some really fun things that our students already know how to do, right?
Yep. And of course, you can't have Instagram without Twitter. So, well, I guess X now. When we made this, I think the bird was still a thing. But they can choose a little icon that kind of represents them. They can put their first and last name in there, and then they can do a tweet with 280 characters or less that is talking about their vocabulary for the week.
Awesome. So we're kind of just going through a few different examples so you kind of get a visual here. And then last but not least, I think this is such an important piece here. And this is a self-assessment.
We really liked the idea of them being able to, at the beginning of the week, kind of think about those vocabulary words and decide where they're at. So some of them, curly is, I kind of know the definition, but I'm not really sure. So they're able to move those words around to where they think they need more practice. They move the words up there. And then throughout the week, because it's accessible to them and they keep going back to it, they can move those words around. So the idea is hopefully that by the end of the week, if they're using this multiple times, they've moved all of those words to, I know this really well, and they've really had a really good opportunity to practice their vocabulary.
Michelle, is it okay if I address something that is in the chat about kindergarten?
Absolutely, please do.
So a lot of the activities that you're seeing in terms of like the Instagram and the Twitter and those were not lower L activities. Those were upper L activities. We designated certain activities for certain grade levels. Again, one, so kids don't get bored and they're not doing the same thing every single year. but 2, because it's not appropriate for that grade level. So phonemic awareness and phonics is what we focused on for K1 and part of 2 activities. So we did a lot of the games already built into Lumio. We did that activity where it was like the dragging of the sounds. So all of the focus for K1 and some of 2 activities were on sounds and relationships to words. The vocabulary was the focus for part of 2nd grade and then 3, 4, 5.
Exactly. And if you do stick around, yep, that's great clarification. If you stick around, we're actually going to share out with you in your follow-up email. So I think we said it might go out about Friday, maybe Monday. You are going to get links to all the there's an example for each grade from K to 5 of sample lessons that they've created for their district. There's a kindergarten, a 1st grade, a 3rd, so on and so forth. And so we'll kind of show you those different activities that you might do depending on which grade you're in. Great question. So coming back over to self-assessment, why do self-assessment? There's such a benefit of it, right? So we really want our students to be able to reflect. They might have used a word in a sentence. They might have gotten there eventually, but how are they feeling? Are they feeling like I'm ready to move forward, or does this word kind of need that practice? And I like what Amy said of like, they have access to that all week. They might have started with a word in the red zone and gradually through the week as they continue to work through this choice board or other activities, right? They had mentioned, Amy and Dawn, that this isn't something that you exclusively do. There's other activities. This is just part of your day. But after they've done the choice board and after they've done their other lessons and other activities, that word progressively can go from the red zone to yellow to green by Friday. Who knows? So it really does. The self-assessment does allow for them to reflect. It builds a responsibility too, right? Instead of us just telling them, this is a skill that you need to work on. If they're consistently kind of looking at their self-assessment and seeing that same word in the red zone all the time, it's really building that responsibility, knowing that, tomorrow when I come back to this choice board, I really need to keep working on this specific word again. I want to make a goal for myself to get that word out of the red zone. And even if it just goes to yellow, that's one step better than it was. And so really that feeds right back into critical thinking too, of like, what are my next steps that I need to do? How am I going to get there? And it does motivate them, right? Like all these things kind of go right hand in hand. They feel so good when they're able themselves to take the word and drag it to the next category. I did that in my class. I taught kindergarten and I had an anchor chart where my students, as they moved up reading levels, they came up and they bubbled in on their little bar graph of where they were. And they get so excited and so motivated to see themselves grow on that chart. And it's such a good moment for them to hold themselves accountable and be excited about their learning. So as I mentioned, these things are all coming to the Lumio library, and you'll also get them linked in your follow-up email, right? So we've got an example for kindergarten on all about learning the short A. 1st grade is going to be on those letter digraphs, words with SH and WH. And then there is the choice boards for 2nd through 5th grade. And so what we're going to do now is just take a few minutes. I would love to show you how simple it is to build just 2 of these activities, and then we'll close out. So I'm going to pop into editing mode. Now, depending what kind of learner you are, if you'd like to just kind of come to Zoom, sit back and observe as I create, you are welcome to do so. If you'd like to take a moment to log into teacher mode and kind of click as I click, if you want that more hands-on practice, you're welcome to do so. For time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but remember, you will get the recording of this call as well. So I'm just going to start a blank page and I'm going to build that Instagram example because I loved it. It was one of my favorites. So I'm going to pop over to Google, and I have to give a shout out to Michelle, my colleague in the chat here, because this is her tip that she shared with me, and I don't remember life before this tip. So I'm going to go and search Instagram template. And of course I got my caps lock on over there. I'm going to go over to images, and shout out to Michelle. This is what she told me you can do. You can click on this tools button, click on color, and click transparent. And then it'll give you those different images that don't have a background. So I'm going to click on this one. And I'll right click, copy image, and I'm going to bring right over to my Lumio screen and Control V to paste it on my screen. So here is that Lumio template, or the Instagram template. And now I'm ready to customize it. Always remember, anything that your students shouldn't really be able to edit or move, always lock it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that arrow, lock in place. Here's where I'll start customizing. So I might say, type vocab word here. And I'll put insert picture that shows the word or demonstrates the meaning of the word. You can customize that text any way you need. And then over here, we're going to put use the word in a sentence. So now there's two different ways that I can add audio, right? I'm all about making this really accessible for my students. So there's two different ways I can do it. Same little gallery button that the students had on their side. I've got that gallery button too. And I can come over here and I can record audio this way. So I might say, type your vocab word here. And now I can move this little guy anywhere I need on my screen, but I'm going to put him right over here so that it's right next to that set of instructions. What you saw Amy and Dawn do a lot also was instructional audio, and that's really the audio for the whole page. So again, the goal is our students are doing this at their centers individually while we're at the back table doing our small groups. And that button is right in the top right corner here. There's a little icon of a person talking. And here's where I would give those instructions. So use the vocab list at the bottom of the page and create 3 Instagram posts using those vocabulary words. And so now that'll float right at the top of my page here. The very last step you need to do is also right next to that top right button here, there is a magic wand. And here's where you'll convert this page into an activity. So individual handout gives each student their own copy. Group workspace divides the students up into small groups. And whole class whiteboard is kind of that Jamboard-esque activity where we can all collaborate together. I'm going to show you how to build one more activity, and then we're going to close out with our resources, but I really want to show you how easy it is to build a game. So I'm going to come over to my plus button here. That's where you can add all the different parts to a Lumio lesson, and pop over to my game-based activities. Remember earlier I said there are 3 of our 12 games that give you that dashboard because I want to be able to collect data. So those 3 games, just as a reminder, are Match 'em Up, Rank Order, and Super Sort. I'm just going to build a Super Sort game here. I'm thinking of my primary students here again. So I might be doing, again, an SH and CH sort. So you have an option here to bring in text or image. I'm thinking of my primary students, so I might want to bring in an image. I can go into my Bing Safe search here, and I might bring in a picture of a fish. And for my CH word, and you can keep going here. I'm just going to show you 2 examples just for the sake of time. Bring in chips for my CH word. As soon as it's done loading, I can continue. You can add up to 10 here into the 2 categories. Hit next. There are a bunch of pre-made themes for you here. They're ready to go. Some of them are interactive, like the rock concert. When you get the right answer, they jam out with you. You can always go for a simple one. I personally love to go for custom and kind of bring in something that's relevant to what we're learning. But for today, I'm going to choose my little Lumio Firefly. And that's it. That game is ready to go. So I can pop it open, preview it for my students, double check everything works. And then again, for the games, you also have the ability to add those. Yes, the students love the pirate ship. You can also record instructions here on the game as well. So for independent practice, they have that ability.
Hey, Mish, Tracy asked a great question, and I know you have a hack for this, which is why I'm bringing it up. Tracy wants to know about the option to have both text and images, and I know that you've got the hack. So can you show us the
I
hack?
have all the hacks. All right, here it goes. And this is as a primary teacher, like I would want this, or especially working with my English language students, I want to have both text and image. What do I do? My recommendation to you is open up a blank page. Type in the word, so maybe I'll do chips. And then I'm going to come over to my gallery, bring in that same picture. Let's get chips. And then what I'll do is, I'm going to put those 2 together here. Obviously, I would make this look a little prettier, but just for time's sake, I might put those together. And then I'll take a screenshot. So let's quickly group those together. And now if I come back over here, and I'm going to come back, and instead I'll add this as an image. So I'm going to instead search on my computer here, come over to my screenshot folder, and here it is. So now I have both image and text. My little hack for you. Perfect. All right. So just for time's sake here, let's come back over. And here we go. So you will all of you will get a follow-up email. Like I said, I think it'll come about Friday or Monday. It'll have a recording of this webinar. If you want to go back and hear or see anything that we showed you, you'll have a link to this file specifically. And then you'll also have the links to the kindergarten through 5th grade examples that Amy and Dawn so graciously shared with all of us. And then if you want to continue learning with Lumio, we always have our resources available to you. So starting at the right side, we have our academy where you can go for self-paced, self-guided courses you can take. It gives you a simulated screen of Lumio, really walk you through all the different things that you can do. Just as you're in our webinar now, we have about 4 to 5 webinars a month on all different topics. We do have another one later this month also on vocabulary. Anytime you'd like to attend a webinar, but you can't, the timing doesn't work out, register anyways. We'll get that recording sent to you. And then we do have our YouTube channel, which has a variety of 2 to 3 minute clips like, hey, how do I import something? How do I build a game? How do I do this? And then we also go live twice a month and show quick 15-minute bite-sized ideas for you to do in Lumio. And if you're not yet, we also have an ambassador community, kind of like imagine Facebook, but just for people that are using Lumio. Such a great place to come to stay in the know. That's where we announce all of our upcoming webinars. That's where you can go to find out all of our new Lumio features. There's new features coming out very often, and we're always posting those in there. And it's just a really good place to come to connect with other educators like Amy and Dawn to get ideas of what everyone is up to. So with that, I really just want to say thank you so much, Amy and Dawn, for all of your time, for being here today, for sharing all of your really, really great resources with our community here. We really appreciate your time.
No problem.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a ton of links for everyone in the chat to complete the survey. Remember, if you do complete that survey, you will get a certificate for today's webinar. And then we're also dropping in the chat all the links to the resources. But stay tuned for the end of the week, and we will send out the recording and all these amazing files with you as well. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. And thanks, Holly and Michelle, for being in the chat and helping me out today. Could not have done that without you two. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.